Hello.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Jamie Green.
My name is Mike Rockenfeller.
Bruno Spengler, you are in Hockenheim.
Welcome to Brands Hatch.
To Mugello.
I hope you enjoy this show.
At the Nürburgring.
The Euro Speedway. Thank you
for supporting us, guys.
Have fun.
And welcome to our review of the 2007 DTM Series. 10 races, 5 different countries. Yes, the waiting had finally come to an end for DTM fans on Sunday the 22nd of April 2007. After a long winter break, the new 2007 DTM season began in Hockenheim, heralding the second instalment in the eagerly awaited prestige duel between Audi and Mercedes-Benz. 5 drivers, indeed 25% of the starting field, were making their DTM debuts on this weekend. Alexander Primat, Lucas Luhr, Mike Rockenfeller and Adam Carroll were all new at Audi. While at Mercedes-Benz, the debutant was Paul di Resta, replacing the retiring Jean Alesi. Traditionally, of course, the DTM starts at Hockenheim and ends at the same track. In 2007, it was no difference. There is Bruno Spengler, now perhaps Mercedes-Benz top driver. And look at this! A serious accident shortly after the start meant the race was immediately stopped. Alexandra Primat crashed hard into Tom Christensen. Dr. Ulrich of Audi filled in the detail.
I met Adam Carroll coming on his way already back to his team, so he was without any troubles. And then it was possible to me to talk to both of the drivers, Tom Christensen and Alexandre Primat. But to make sure that everything is fine, we've been bringing them to hospitals where they will be checked in all the way it is necessary.
It appeared that Tom Christensen had just been clipped by Timo Scheider, causing him to spin. After the restart, it was Martin Tomczyk who took a narrow lead from Paul di Resta in a 2-year-old car. The DTM novice was certainly going very quickly in front of Bruno Spengler and Matthias Ekstrom. The Swedish ace was, however, to stamp his authority on this race. Not that anyone noticed it happening as he slipped to the back of the field after making his mandatory pit stops very early on in the space of 7 laps. The reward for this unusual strategy was a clear track and perfect racing conditions. By contrast, Martin Tomczyk had lost the lead at lap 5 after locking up. Bruno Spengler and Paul di Resta gratefully accepted the chance to go past. The Mercedes pair now turned in lap times much quicker than that of Tomczyk or Timo Scheider. The gap grew wider with every lap. Pit stop for Bruno Spengler, and he really should have expected to finish in second place. With 5 laps to go, he had a clear advantage over Timo Scheider, who, along with Martin Tomczyk, had benefited from a catastrophic di Resta pit stop. Places 1 through 4 appeared to be settled, but the last lap had one final twist to offer. Ekstrom was already bearing down on the finish line when the action boiled over again behind him. Spengler and Scheider tangled, leaving Tomczyk to race into the gap and take second place. Timo Scheider was not a happy man. Here we see it again. And after evaluating the incident, the stewards agreed with Scheider and handed Canadian ace Spengler a 50-second penalty. Mercedes immediately appealed the verdict, but the protest was rejected, and it proved to be a very costly incident indeed for the Canadian. So, an Audi 1-2 and a tactical masterclass from Matthias Ekstrom.
It's really amazing. I mean, I got my 10th DTM victory today, and I really feel in a good shape, as well as the car is very good and the team did a perfect strategy and 2 perfect pit stops. So I think it's a well-deserved victory for us, because we all worked hard the whole winter, and last year all of us had a tough time, but it's nice to be back on the top of the podium.
And there was the final result with the Audi 1-2 for Red Bull, Ekstrom and Tomczyk. Spengler shown there in 3rd place. La Rosa, however, was promoted to that position. And indeed, it cost 6 vital points for Spengler. So we move on to the 2nd race of the season, moving eastwards to Oschersleben. Well, this is a normally sleepy rural landscape, but it comes to life on a DTM race weekend. After the bad crash in Hockenheim, regular ALMS series drivers Marco Werner and Frank Bieler deputised for Tom Christensen and Alexandra Primat. And Christensen really was suffering from very bad concussion indeed. So there are the 2 new drivers. There's Frank Bieler, hugely successful in the past in the DTM, of course. And nice sentiments from that flag presented by the Audi team. Mika Häkkinen's 2nd pole position in the DTM underlined his ambitions to go on and win the race. However, all eyes turned to events further down the field at the start, when reigning champion Bernd Schneider stayed stationary on the grid and was lucky not to be rammed from behind. However, there was an incident at the front of the grid too, behind the red Audi of surprise front row starter Mike Rockenfeller. We see that Matthias Ekstrom clearly jumped the start. He was able to exploit Häkkinen's poor start and overtake the Finn. On viewing the replay, the stewards had no choice but to punish the Hockenheim winner. Ekstrom's race was over before it really started. A bitter disappointment for a driver with genuine title ambitions. So, instead of fighting it out at the front of the field, Ekstrom raced some 30 seconds off the lead. Meanwhile, Häkkinen there in his 2007 Mercedes ran behind Rockenfeller's old Audi for lap after lap. Bruno Spengler in 3rd slipped further and further behind. But many eyes had been taken off a man who was making a big charge. Gary Paffett appeared on the scene when leader Rockenfeller came in for his first pit stop after 13 laps. 2005 champion Paffett had made his pit stop 7 laps earlier and enjoyed a clear track. But it was to get worse for Rockenfeller. Mika Häkkinen had taken on fresh tyres and turned in some blistering laps. As a result, Paffett opened up a significant lead over the double Formula 1 world champion, as well as Mike Rockenfeller. But there were problems to come. The pair suddenly involved with the Nienerichs, clipped there by Jamie Green. No one was hurt, and Green got a drive-through penalty, but he wasn't very happy about the steward's decision.
But actually, when I lifted off and turned to the left, she lifted off to let me past, which was really unlucky because then I hit her and she spun. So it was, it was a bit of a shame that she lifted off. I didn't expect that.
Meanwhile, Bruno Spengler retired from the race. Problems with the power-assisted brakes. Paul Di Resta, though, was having a much better time of it. The Formula 3 European champion delivered another superb performance in the 2005 Mercedes, putting in some excellent lap times in a very long middle stint and even on very worn tyres. As a result, he had rejoined the race after his second stop ahead of Hakkinen and Rockefeller. Meanwhile, a technical problem prevented stand-in driver Frank Bieler from making it to the finish, but Marco Werner gave a fine account of himself before his final stop. He was in a very exciting duel with Bernd Schneider and ultimately came in 15th. After overcoming clutch problems, Schneider rose through the field to take 6th place. However, the winner was Gary Paffett with Paul di Resta in 2nd place. A great day for the Brits. Shortly after the finish, Hakkinen's duel with Rockefeller ended when the Finn lost a rear tyre.
You know, after winning today, you've got to say our aim has changed a bit, but you know, you've still got to go to every race and be really competitive, and that's going to be harder and harder. The more success you have, the heavier your car gets, so it's going to be harder at Lausitzring to do it, but we're going to be pushing to try and get another podium and maybe another win. So.
Yeah, and that's a great result for the Persson team, but Tomczyk now leading the championship with 12 points, along with Paul di Resta. What a surprise. Moving on to race 3 then. The Lausitzring, the superb new facility. The oval is little used these days, but the road course provides a great venue for the DTM brigade. A Red Bull Formula One car was the guest of honour. Matthias Ekstrom and Formula One test driver Michael Ammermuller tried each other's cars and kept the fans on their feet. Yet another highlight, at least for the men, new Lara Croft actress Karina Adabibi was a VIP guest at the DTM, or to be more precise, a guest of Martin Tomczyk. The hero of the Team Raider computer game looked pretty good in an Audi A4 as well. Mike Rockefeller's race started badly. The 23-year-old in the Audi suffered a spin on the warm-up lap. Qualifying has certainly not been kind to Audi. Indeed, Mercedes dominated the weekend up to that point with 7 C-Class cars on the first 4 rows of the grid. Indeed, it was Mercedes at the front. Mika Hakkinen managed to take the lead from Bruno Spengler. And Spengler overtaken by Scotland's Paul di Resta. The ultra-tight first corner is new this year. It's been altered. No problem for Hakkinen and Spengler. But big problems for Markus Winkelhock, the Spiker Formula One test driver, in this incident. There he is. He'd clashed with Matthias Lauda. The clearing up operation was difficult as the A4 was blocking the ideal line. Even so, 3 more laps passed before the stewards upgraded the local yellow flags to a safety car phase. And the safety car came out in the wrong place. Meanwhile, Ekstrom using this neutral phase to make one of his 2 pit stops. However, the Swede acted too quickly. The rules state that the pit lane remains closed until the field has fully lined up behind the safety car. There was confusion all round. 1 lap after Ekstrom, the rest of the field came in for stops in accordance with the rules, and most of the drivers used the 10-minute safety car phase to complete both their mandatory stops. Bruno Spengler was a little unlucky. The 23-year-old was waiting at the pit lane exit for the red lights to go out. A lap later, this incident, Primat and Gary Paffett. Gary not happy.
Yeah, Alex Primat was crazy. I mean, it was behind me on the straight and he just didn't brake, just drove straight into the back of my car. I've got half the back of my car missing now, so it's crazy. He's to realise what happens in slipstream because he's stupid, you know.
The safety car came out again on lap 30. This time to sort the field out correctly after the mishap in the first phase. Took another 10 minutes to line the cars up in the correct order. After this, Matthias Ekstrom came in for his 3rd stop, as the first had been invalid. The Swede finished 10th behind Martin Tomczyk. Shortly before the finish, Christian Abt brushed the wall and was forced to retire. By now, Mika Hakkinen was off into the distance. The Formula One world champion of the past followed his Spa win in 2005 with a 2nd DTM triumph. Di Resta, Spengler and Schneider completed a Mercedes-Benz lockout.
for the team, it was more difficult than for me. More or less the team gave me instructions what to do, but for the team to understand what was going on, it was a big challenge, I tell you, and they did the right work. They did the very good work.
Afterwards, the stewards decided to award half points. No surprise after such a complex and very untidy race. But Häkkinen the winner from De Resta and Spengler. And there Häkkinen receives the applause of the crowd. So 3 races down, all in Germany. We were off to Brands Hatch. And we'll be racing on the Kent's IndyCar circuit. It will be tight and it will be dramatic. There had been severe consequences following the chaos at Eurospeedway Lausitz. Indeed, the German Motorsport Association decided to sack a number of the culprits in the incident, including the well-known clerk of the course, Roland Brauschneider. And there, Mika Häkkinen, well, maybe he wouldn't have saluted in quite the same way if he knew the points were cut to half. Brands Hatch, of course, just 30 kilometres southeast of London. And running a DTM race for a second year running. Everyone hoping for a British victory here. Fine weather greeted the large crowd at the circuit. And it was Bruno Spengler who made the best start in his silver Mercedes-Benz. Off they go into Paddock Hill Bend. The early race order, Spengler from Häkkinen and Ekstrom. Look at that smoke. An incident, Paul De Resta involved.
In the race we got a fantastic start, made up a few positions, was making up a few at Druids, the second corner, number 2, and I got touched by Scheider, and then next it was my teammate Alex just tapped me when I was braking to avoid the incident. It was unfortunate because I think we had quite a good race car.
Yeah, we can see it again. And there De Resta's car right into the gravel. Adam Carroll also involved, as was Mike Rockenfeller. The crash prompted the stewards to send out the safety car. Daniel LaRosa came into the pits too early, and it cost the German driver dearly. The pit stop deemed to be invalid. The race restarted on the 7th lap. Gary Paffett showed how to overtake at Brands Hatch. There he is, giving Matthias Lauda a bit of a nudge. Lauda, son of the former Austrian world champion. Lap 9, and Bernd Schneider came in for his first pit stop. Very early stop when you remember that the drivers had to complete 82 laps of the short circuit. The trick here was to try and find some clear track, and timing your pit stop absolutely vital. Mika Häkkinen seemed to get that right. Here he is exiting the pits. The real race leader was the Silver C-Class, driven by Bruno Spengler, followed by the apt Audi of Matthias Ekstrom and indeed his teammate Martin Tomczyk. Häkkinen made his second stop on lap 31. He still had 50 laps to go on his final set of tyres. Häkkinen's fresh rubber certainly worked early on. There he is up against Ekstrom. who at this point was still on his first set of tyres. Very different strategies indeed. Meanwhile, Vina X was in the wars again. Gary Paffett giving her a nudge. And the English driver got a warning for the stewards for that. Bernd Schneider in the Silver C class now had his second stop and was racing behind Häkkinen. Both were in the very latest 2007 AMG built vehicles. Spengler and Ekstrom continuing their battle there. The 2004 champion Ekstrom making his second mandatory pit stop. And it was a mega stop, just 4.5 seconds. Häkkinen and Schneider chased each other over the start-finish line. Both the Finn and the German remained at the front, so this tactic was not going to bring a race win. Perhaps it would help in the head-to-head with Spengler. The Canadian pitted a lap after Ekstrom and was sent on his way by the AMG crew a little faster, but Spengler briefly stalled the engine. In a race liable to be decided by hundredths of a second, it counted as a bad error. Ekstrom was through, and the unfortunate tactics brought Spengler nothing better than 5th place in the end. Internal team tactics explain why Schneider sailed past Häkkinen on lap 54. It even led to another tough duel. The world champion joined in a fight with Ekstrom in the Audi. The race was decided on lap 62. Leader Martin Tomczyk made a very fast pit stop. Schneider and Ekstrom dashed down the home straight at full racing speed, and Tomczyk rejoined behind Schneider and Ekstrom in second. Race order at the finish: Schneider, Tomczyk, Ekstrom. A good result for Audi was second and third places. And it was Schneider's 32nd DTM win.
After disappointing qualifying, being sixth yesterday, I was I didn't expect here to win, and this is the reason I'm so happy that the team made a perfect strategy. I came out always without traffic and I could push really hard, and in the end I had to defend my lead against the Audis, but the car was good and I made no mistake.
4 races, 4 different winners. The championship looking like this: Tomczyk at the top with 20 points, Ekstrom on 18, Bernd Schneider in third place. Back then to Germany, to the famed Norris Ring. Always a massive crowd here, a great festival feel. And for many, there was a very big surprise. A famous film star was on hand. Yes, the name's Bond, James Bond. Film legend Sir Roger Moore spent the weekend at this DTM race at the Norris Ring. The 79-year-old Briton joined his 4th wife, Christina Tholstrup, to watch the afternoon qualifying, and then spent the rest of the time as an honoured guest. He even joined the DTM VIP party in the evening. There he is, with Christina. On to the race for Mercedes at the front, and also the blue Audi of championship leader Tomczyk back in 11th place. Spengler won the duel at the start from Häkkinen, and with none of the field for once making mistakes here, Tomczyk was forced to line up in the middle of the pack, approaching the Grundig bend. 2 tyres destroyed, a ruined under tray. That was Tomczyk's reward after just 400 metres on the road. There was no way out after Susie Stoddard pushed Paul de Resta. After the crash, Tomczyk had no choice but to limp home and park up in the pits.
The race was short, really short for me, up to the first corner. I went through the corner with Paul de Resta, side by side, and then I got hard hit from the left side from Susie. she crashed into my car, so the whole underfour was crashed and both tires were flat. So I couldn't rejoin the race anymore, and I have to give up.
When the girl from Oban in Scotland barged into Ix 4 laps later, the stewards handed out a drive-through penalty. However, Stoddard's C-Class team launched its own protest against the rough treatment. Tomczyk had to watch as his lead in the standings melted away. Bernd Schneider in third place and Ekstrom in fifth were the likely candidates to take over the lead at the top of the championship table. Both made early pit stops. Vanina Ix once again assisted in the changes of fortune. Here she is the victim of an incident with Matthias Lauda. The safety car phase followed, just as leader Bruno Spengler was making his first pit stop. It brought back memories of the chaos at Lausitz. Spengler, indeed, broke a red light in rejoining the race, but the stewards decided against a penalty. By contrast, Mika Häkkinen had yet to make a stop and was badly disadvantaged by the safety car phase. After the restart, he led the field, but his lead had shrunk from half a lap to just a few metres as the field closed up behind the safety car. His pre-race strategy was in tatters. Instead of a potential second place, Häkkinen rejoined in 11th. He skillfully battled his way up to 9th, but not into the points. Second place, and thus the lead in the championship, ended up being decided in the pits between Schneider and Ekstrom. Schneider retained a narrow lead. Ekstrom slotted precisely into the gap between the reigning champion and Paul di Resta. In any event, the Scot was pursuing a lost cause after the crash at the start. Overtaking was scarce. Schneider was unable to threaten Ekstrom, and the Swede could not apply pressure to Spengler. There were points for Paffett in fourth and for Tom Christensen. On his comeback after the bad accident in Hockenheim, he finished in fifth place. However, after missing 4 races, his goal was simply a decent placing at the end of the season. Victory, though, to Bruno Spengler, the 5th different winner in 5 races, and a change of fortune.
Today I'm very, very happy. I mean, it's my second win here in Nürburgring and also the first of the season again, like last year. And you know, these points, these 10 points, I was looking for them since the beginning of the season, always really near to them and couldn't get them. But anyway, you know, I'm now I got them and I'm really, really happy about it, and I'm back in the play for the championship, and you know.
Yes, let's look at those championship points. Schneider leading from Ekstrom and Tomczyk, but Spengler definitely back in the hunt on 17. The championship moved on to Italy, to the circuit of Mugello. 6th round of the championship, second half of the season. And following a break of more than 10 years, the DTM was back at the track. The 5.245 kilometre circuit, located to the north of the Italian city of Florence, weaves its way through a typically picturesque and hilly Tuscan landscape. From 1994 to 1996, Mugello was the venue for a total of 6 DTM races, and one of the drivers on the current DTM grid succeeded in winning 2 of those rounds. And it is, of course, Bernd Schneider. The start, Audi's first, second, third and fourth. But Spengler muscled his way past Timo Scheider. And the Audi ace slipped from 4th to 9th. Margaritas, meanwhile, testing the Tuscan gravel strap. Here is a replay of the start. Lots of Audis at the front, but look at the French-Canadian certainly pushing very hard. Schneider in the gravel trap, and he was soon to retire from the race. That followed a clash with Bernd Schneider. Lucas Löhr also forced to give up after a single lap with a broken chassis. Löhr and Schneider both fell victim to on-track battles, but Jamie Green retired without any other vehicle being involved. At that point, he was lying in 5th place. Meanwhile, everything was looking good for Audi. Ekstrom and Tomczyk set the pace, with Tom Christensen a little further back, followed by a big gap to the best-placed Mercedes-Benz of the hard-charging Bruno Spengler. Ekstrom's chief rival in the standings, championship leader Bernd Schneider, was now back in 7th place. It all remained incident-free for another 4 laps, and then Vanina X was in the gravel trap again. Christensen started to drop down the field after a problem pit stop. Problems too for Martin Tomczyk with his lollipop man, and Alexandra Margaritis off into the gravel and into the tyre wall. The safety car came out, and it was a situation which Mika Häkkinen immediately exploited. Suddenly the Finn had moved up the field. So an excellent strategy move by Mika Häkkinen. Once the pit lane reopened after that safety car phase, the entire field came in for tyres, with one exception. Now everyone knew Häkkinen would have a say in the final outcome. When the safety car came back in, Häkkinen was in the lead from Ekstrom, who had controlled the race along with Tomczyk up to that point. Tomczyk had fallen back now to 10th place. Martin Tomczyk's race came to a premature end after a spin entirely of his own making. Gary Paffett and Christian Abt were the unwilling victims. The disappointing end for all three was caused by Tomczyk's tyres apparently losing grip. Just got too cold under the safety car. For the remaining 20 laps, everyone was on the same tyres. The Audis had been quicker all weekend. Ekstrom moved to attack Häkkinen. Meanwhile, Schneider was having problems with understeer caused by an incident early in the race, and he was down in 11th place. However, it would still be a good result for Mercedes, as Bruno Spengler and Daniel La Rosa took 4th and 5th between the top 3. Häkkinen, Ekstrom and De Resta.
Bad luck at Norris Ring. Now you're winning because of pit stop strategy. What is your opinion about that?
If you ask me now, it's fantastic.
Audi, meanwhile, were despondent, but Ekstrom was still at the top of the table with 32 points. Schneider was on 25.5. Then it was Spengler on 22. And De Resta also on 22. Next race on the calendar, we're off to the seaside venue of Zandvoort in Holland. Many years ago, of course, the venue for a regular Dutch Grand Prix. Always a very challenging track indeed. Before the race at Zandvoort, the DTM took a detour to Amsterdam as rivals Mercedes and Audi proudly sailed on the Amstel. A little bit incongruous perhaps, but it certainly made a very good photo opportunity. Lights out. A great start for Ekstrom. First into the Tarzan bend. Schneider was second from Tomczyk. Everyone making a good getaway. Until this incident of the first turn. Christensen was effectively shunted into De Resta by Spengler. He spun and went to the back of the field. There is De Resta. After the first pit stop, Spengler found out about motor racing as a contact sport after coming together with Christian Abt in the pit lane. Spengler felt like the victim of a mugging, but Abt described the incident as an unlucky bump. The stewards decided to hand out a yellow card, a warning for Abt, who was heading on for his best race of the season and a 5th place finish. Shortly after the start, Tom Christian had to give up any aspirations, falling from 4th to 10th place, despite being blameless in the earlier incident. He was determined not to lose another place when Bernd Schneider came challenging. The carbon fibre went flying, and Christensen won the duel, but Schneider was not happy. Pole sitter Timo Scheider had been overtaken but tried everything to find a way past Spengler. Without success, the Audi man used every ounce of his cunning as he chased the Canadian's AMG Mercedes for 11 laps before finally pulling off the overtaking manoeuvre he needed for a potential podium. The stewards viewed the manoeuvre as a normal racing incident, although the first contact seemed to come before there was space for the overtake. Matthias Ekstrom's celebrations were even more intense as the championship leader found a way past the Canadian on the last lap. Was Spengler the victim, or was he trying to be the criminal? Christensen and Schneider crossed swords again at the end. Schneider refused to give way on this occasion, and Christensen had a bent track rod in the front steering. On the last lap, Matthias Ekstrom managed to get past Mika Häkkinen. There were team tactics too at the end as Alexandra Pramat slowed up to allow Martin Tomczyk to pass, as did Timo Scheider and Matthias Ekstrom.
It was not an order from the team, it was myself. I take the risk to let pass Tomczyk because for sure he needs a lot of points for the championship to come back and to fight with Ekstrom.
So let's see what it did to the championship. Ekstrom on 38, Tomczyk now on 30 and Spengler on 26. It was still wide open. So for round 7, the DTM moved back to Germany, to the home of the European Grand Prix, the German Grand Prix, yes, the Nürburgring. There is the famous Schloss, which sits upon the hill. Beneath it, of course, the famous Nordschleife. The modern Grand Prix track has been booming since Formula One returned there in 1995. And there's been a major reconstruction over the past 2 years to make the new paddock even larger. The DTM very much at home here. Martin Tomczyk earned himself a great starting position in qualifying, and the Bavarian in the blue Audi A4 from pole position, but another incident. Markus Winkelhock. The field, initially unaffected by this, settled smoothly into the race order behind leader Tomczyk, but Markus Winkelhock was totally unable to move his car from that position, and so the safety car came out again. Exactly 1.5 seconds after the start, Winkelhock's race came to a premature end, shunted there by Mike Rockenfeller. It was a weekend Winkelhock would want to forget. After the safety car phase, the restart came at the end of lap 2. The leading group initially the same: Tomczyk, Schneider, Christensen. 3 Audis from Mercedes-Benz man Bruno Spengler in 4th. Now the pit stop strategies were coming into play. Timo Scheider and Bernd Schneider were first to make stop number 1 of the 2, and that made space on the track for Bruno Spengler. He passed Tom Christensen as Mercedes made up ground. Spengler now second, ahead of Christensen. Spengler now only had Martin Tomczyk ahead of him, but it all would be decided in the pits. Spengler was first in, his team did a great job, Change of tyres in 6.1 seconds. Spengler back out on the track. Tomczyk also made a very good pit stop. It was still very much game on. Ekstrom stayed out a long time. Audi strategy, of course, called by Dr. Wolfgang Ulrich. It seemed to be paying off. Then Ekstrom suddenly launched a surprise attack. While Jamie Green was busy trying to pass Timo Scheider, Ekstrom sneaked past to take 4th place. Timo Scheider now had no chance against the new and faster tyres on Ekstrom's car. It wasn't really a battle for 3rd place, more a friendly overtaking. There he goes. Schneider allowed Ekstrom to pass. Championship leader Ekstrom thus made it onto the podium. Away from all this, Martin Tomczyk continued his quick, error-free and solid race to the end. After winning in Zandvoort, the 25-year-old had now conquered the Nürburgring.
I'm really happy about it. You know, the car was really perfect. I could control the race from beginning on up to the end. And once when you see 7 seconds in front of the second car, you be much more relaxed then. But at the end, I have to say the car was really brilliant. The pit stop strategy was perfect, and yeah, I could win the race at the end.
So what did that do to the championship? Ekstrom on 44, Tomczyk, his teammate, on 40, Spengler on 34, Bruno Schneider on 27.5. The DTM headed, they hoped, south for the sun for this round, the Circuit de Catalunya. Home of the Spanish Grand Prix, but using a slightly shorter circuit. Indeed, circuit length on this special version of the Grand Prix track, 2.949 miles. The track, of course, close to Barcelona. The DTM had raced successfully there in 2006 and were pleased to be back at the track. There was time for a little bit of sightseeing, but all the action would happen in the paddock. At the start, Tomczyk won the duel with Mika Häkkinen. Spengler overtook Bernd Schneider for 4th. And Daniel La Rosa, he was the victim of some early bullfighting for position. There he is spinning in turn 1. The young German finally gets underway. However, another car would soon spin off the track. This time it was Tom Christensen, although he was able to continue the race. Christensen getting back into the battle. See it again. Just a bit too hot into the corner. Gary Paffett having to take avoiding action. Lap 7 saw one of 2 decisive incidents in the race. Häkkinen missing his braking point, attempting to overtake Tomczyk, crashed hard into Martin's car. Häkkinen's braking point for turn 1 as he took the race leader did not appear to be very well judged. Tomczyk, meanwhile, rejoined in 11th place. Meanwhile, Bruno Spengler in the lead, and a broken radiator. They're trying to call it in the pits. Emotions running high, and Tomczyk had to retire. Ekstrom started from 10th place in this incident with La Rosa. The Audi camp not happy.
I was, after my first pit stop, wanted to overtake him. He left plenty of room into the corner, but then late mid-corner he turned in and we had a small touch and my car got nervous, and then I was accelerating out to the next corner, and in the middle of the corner he came full power straight into my car, so the left rear broke. And for me, I think that's over the limit. If you are touching a little bit and we change colors of the cars and break a mirror or something, this is something we all accept. But today, my experience was that it was over the limit, and also for my teammates.
Despite a drive-through penalty for exceeding the speed limit under a yellow, Bruno Spengler looked well placed to bring home a handsome number of points. Only third place Mike Rockenfeller could have prevented it, but Spengler overcame the Audi driver's stern resistance and found a way past. 3 laps later, Audi ordered all their remaining cars into the pits. This shock development all but overshadowed Jamie Green's fast and error-free drive to an 11-second race win over Bruno Spengler. It was Green's long-awaited first DTM triumph. In the pits, meanwhile, discussions between the two team bosses. Behind Paul de Rest, who was third, was Margaritis, Paffett and Lauda. But no Audis, of course, finishing.
We came here to Barcelona hoping for a great race, a great and fair race for the championship. In the first third of the race, the 2 guys that have been contenders for the championship from our team have been pushed from the racetrack in a way that I don't think that should be done. It's not our style. And during the race, some other activities that, from my point of view, are not the way Audi wants the race happened. And then I had to take the decision to take my cars out of the race.
Well, that is not my understanding, and I do not have the understanding. I do not want to criticize the colleagues, obviously, but I cannot understand this action. I mean, it just happened when we were 1 through 3. I don't know whether this is coincidence, no idea. But for me, it was unnecessary.
Well, despite Ulrich's order to withdraw, Lucas Luhr and Mike Rockenfeller were still classified in the points. Bosses at both manufacturers vowed to hold talks to avoid any repeat at Hockenheim, the final round, where the championship would, of course, be decided. The tension at Hockenheim for this final round was absolutely electric. 150,000 people packed into the circuit over the 3 days. Despite the previous problems, Audi were in a confident mood. Matthias Ekstrom getting away from third place. Spengler, a championship contender, starting from a disappointing 6th. On the approach to the hairpin, Jamie Green launched his first attack on Martin Tomczyk, left his braking late and slid through. A spin for Daniel LaRosa down the field. Here's Martin Tomczyk locking up at the end of the straight. He suffered a moment off the track and his championship hopes were over in that one incident. He then had to make an unscheduled pit stop to repair the front of the car. In the meantime, Christensen allowed Ekstrom to pass and focused on trying to hold off Jamie Green. It didn't last long though. On lap 9, Ekstrom allowed Green to pass. The Swede had no need to win the race, merely to finish ahead of Spengler to claim the title. There, Green goes through. Talking of Spengler, he faced a series of hefty battles to make his way past a line of Audis. Marcus Winkelhock getting in the way briefly. Spengler did manage to overtake. Tom Christensen also put up stiff opposition to the Canadian, who must have been ruining those points lost from the first Hockenheim. The Dane trying everything to stay ahead, but Spengler again came out the winner. There's that clash again. Finally, Spengler goes through. Rockefeller then allowed Ekstrom to pass and take third place. However, Mercedes men Bernd Schneider and Bruno Spengler had no trouble passing Mike Rockefeller. After Schneider finally allowed Spengler through, the crowd witnessed a head-to-head duel for the championship, with Spengler closing up behind Ekstrom. But it was not to be. Green won the final race of the season at Hockenheim. Timo Scheider finished second, and thus the DTM champion was Matthias Ekstrom. The Swede repeating his victory from 2004.
I would say last time I won the championship, I felt that I was by far the greatest performer because I was already a championship winner the second last race. I won the second last two races that year, and it was, compared to this one, that championship was easy. Hard as this, I would never expect, and I never had a feeling like this before.
So Ekstrom the winner on 50 points, Spengler a fine runner-up. And with that, farewell from the 2007 DTM series. It was an exciting, occasionally curious, but above all, incident-packed championship. We'll see you all again in 2008.